If there's one thing you take away from this video, it's this. Genji is a poke-dive hybrid, having the flexibility to spam from off angles to farm his blade, as well as pouncing and dueling squishies with relative safety thanks to his insane burst damage and defensive cooldowns. Treat your Deflect like a get out of jail free card, and ensure you have some kind of escape if you do decide to go for a duel. Ensure that you have full HP and cooldowns when you duel, dash in and engage from off angles, and time your blades well. Genji's weapon, the Sharpie Boys, makes him fire 3 shurikens in just under a second, dealing 27 damage per shuriken with 24 in one clip. He can also throw these shurikens at once in a wider spread, with a 0.68 second recovery time between each burst. In terms of basic usage, you obviously want to use your fans in close range, since you'll hit all 3 shurikens immediately, giving you a higher DPS. Aside from that, shurikens are mainly used to farm blade from off angles and high grounds. Really, it's your other abilities and playstyle that are the more complex pieces of your kit. Genji's first ability, the Speedy Boy, makes Genji dash 15 meters, dealing 50 damage to anybody he dashes through with an 8-second cooldown. Your dash resets upon getting a kill or an assist, which is very important for chaining kills with your ultimate or ensuring that you have an escape if you assassinate someone. With tech, you can fire out any firing mode of shurikens after you dash. This combo can deal up to 242 damage, including your melee. The combo is most useful when diving supports at a medium distance with decently sized hitboxes. You can also flick these fan of shurikens the frame after you exit your dash. In terms of usage, dash is quite simple to use. Either engage or escape. That's basically it. When using dash to engage, you typically use it when you're going to confirm a kill, so a target is under 50 HP for example, or that you confirm the kill after you dash with your shurikens so that your dash gets back off cooldown. This also ties into the escape part, but when you dash to engage and you don't confirm the kill, either use Deflect or think of dashing to the closest wall to utilize your passive to escape, as Spallo explains here.
You're basically saying when you dash in, if you don't have a guarantee of a kill, you need to have a wall to climb out.
Yeah, you have to position yourself immediately for the wall. He's double jumping above the Reinhardt to get headshots, but he's also not positioning himself closer to this wall. He's still standing right here in the middle. So if you would take damage, get focused, because it's super easy to focus a Genji or anyone that's in the middle of your team. So it's essentially a 1v6. Then he can't escape unless he uses Deflect, but he has already used Deflect. So now he's screwed.
And lastly, before I move on to the escape usage, if you're playing Genji in some kind of dive comp, you need to make sure you're timing your dash as well with your team's engagements. Here's Spallo giving an example of Super, formerly from the Shock, having a well and badly timed dash.
If he goes in with his monkey, not only would he be safer, but he'd be doing more damage. So it's not just always playing more aggressively, he's playing more stupidly. And meanwhile, Smurf is actually doing stuff, and where's my Genji? Genji's out of the fight. Okay, so this is it. This is not hard. Okay? Now, not every dive is going to be hardcore super early like this, but like this is why, look at the timing here. Ball slam, Winston land, bubble, super dash.
There's also using dash to escape of course, which does tie into your engage as well, as I've just explained, but there's also using it as a get out of jail free card. I've explained this same concept with Sojourn's Power Slide and Echo's Flight in my guides of those heroes, but dash can also be the same. You initially take an aggressive position, then you dash out if you get jumped. For example, on King's 3rd point defense, say you hold a decently aggressive position on high ground, and the enemy diva, if she's good, should fly up and mark you. That is when you can dash out if you're really feeling the heat. Fortunately, you also have things like Deflect, unlike Sojourn or Echo, meaning that you can hold this position for longer, but if you really need to leave, that's when dash can become really valuable. There's also a third use, which is dashing for mobility. The engage and escape dichotomy does already play into that, but obviously dash out of spawn to cover the map quicker and whatnot. Genji's second ability, the Una reverse card, makes him reflect any damage in front of him, aside from beams, lasting 2 seconds alongside an 8-second cooldown. Similar to Ana's Sleep or Arisa's Fortify, Deflect is best used defensively to act as a personal shield of yours, which also happens to deal damage if the enemy shoot you. Deflect should most commonly be used as a get out of jail free card after you execute a target, or after you dash for some ult charge. For example, on Nabani first point attack, you could dash up to the high ground, execute a target, dash back to your team, and or deflect the safety. Alternatively, you can use Deflect in the duel itself to then get your dash off cooldown. For example, on King's first point, if you dash up to the target like a Soldier or Cassidy, you could deflect their Helix or Mag Grenade respectively in order to secure the kill, then you dash out. Generally speaking, deflecting Fire Strikes or Moyo Orbs shouldn't really be your priority due to how little value you could be getting compared to firing Shurikens, and you're also putting your Deflect on cooldown early. But if you can use it early and then have it back up whilst the fight begins, there's no major issue. The penultimate thing I want to mention is to make sure that before you dive a target, you actually have your deflect available to use it. Remember, your deflect is what allows you to win duels and to retreat to safety afterwards. If you don't have it up, there's a good chance you can die afterwards.
So why are you worried about getting slept and naded? What are you missing when you dive her? You're missing your deflect, because you already used it on the Hanzo. There's basically only two things that you need if you want to go in and dive someone. You need to make sure that you have all of your HP, and you need to make sure that you have all of your CDs. You don't want to dive in if you have 50 HP, you don't want to dive in without deflect. So in this case, it is not super duper smart for you to go in on the Ana. So what should we have done instead?
Wait 2 seconds and then go for either the Ana or the Widow?
Exactly. Very, very simple.
And lastly, there's cancelling your deflect. This is for when the enemy team stops shooting at you and you need to land a burst of damage to finish them off. Particularly useful in Dragonblade, for example. Genji's passive, Mirror's Edge, gives Genji the ability to wall climb and double jump. I'll cover your double jump first. In general gameplay, you'll mostly use this to try and make your hitbox more unpredictable to hit, but I will clarify that's against projectiles, not hit scan heroes who'll just track you. Here's an example of top 500 Genji player Necros saving his double jump when using Dragonblade to make his movement more unpredictable.
You should save one jump so you can like dash and then jump in the sky. It makes even great Anas like MO7 like Mr. Sleep because it's just unpredictable. Like you don't know if Genji's gonna fall in a straight line or if he's gonna jump.
Now onto your wall climb. Again, the usage is pretty rudimentary, using it to gain high ground, either to get another angle, or as a form of defense to escape danger. I'll get more onto positional stuff throughout. Genji's ultimate, Infinity Blade, makes Genji unleash his katana for 6 seconds, dealing 110 damage per slash at a 5 meter maximum range. You also gain a 30% speed buff, and your dash is relieved off cooldown. Just to get this out the way, too many of you Genji players ask for Nano Boost or rely on it too heavily. Nano Blade is still a very powerful win condition and can and should still be used to secure teamfights. But stop using it as a cope if your naked blades don't get any value or you scream at your team to pick Ana. It's cringe, to be frank. I'll start off by talking about the workshop code J90ZF that you can use to practice the mechanics of your blades, either with Nano Boost or not. For those who don't know, a slash and dash in a blade is an insta-kill with Nano, giving you an immediate dash reset to then go chase another target. So there's 3 main parts to your blades: the positioning from which you use it, the time at which you blade, and the cooldowns or mechanics used in the actual blade itself. I'll quickly cover the cooldown side since it's pretty simple. Just ensure you're at full HP and you have deflect before you blade. This is super important when dry or naked blading because you need to have deflect to stop those big bursts of damage like a Widow Shot, Hanzo Storm Arrow, Casty Nade, Sojourn Railgun, Soldier Helix, as well as things like Sleep Dart in order to not insta-die the second you sheath blades. But this also leads me nicely onto the timing part of your blades. If you're going for a greedy blade, try not to use it at the beginning of the fight because the entire enemy team will have every single cooldown to stop you. Instead, let your tank some of the cooldowns first, draw some attention away from the front line, and then blade afterwards.
I thought you were going to dash through, deflect, and tuck underneath, right? And then kind of wait for your Ramacho to get here, and then go with Blade. But no, you went in by yourself. Like, the greedier the play, the later it needs to be. A naked Dragonblade is a very greedy play. It's a fight winner, it's a 4K or a 5K, unless you go first. Then it's a 0K. If you allow your Ramacho to go in, if you just even go for just a dry neutral engage, like we saw there, dash through, that's going to force Sojourn E, might force Suzu, will force GA, then we go from there.
And lastly, covering the positioning part of your blades. This is really simple, but just blade in or dash in from an off angle since the enemy team won't expect it.
They're not expecting you. It throws them off. It scares them. And obviously, your entry is safe too, because everybody's seen the meme of Genji's getting rocked and swung and booped and flashbanged and all that jazz, right? But look at Super's blade entry here. No damage. No damage. No damage. No damage. Bang.
Here's another example on Dorado's second point attack. Instead of dashing up in the air, blading, and then dashing in, you instead dash up from underneath, blade, and do your thing. The last thing I want to cover is actually knowing when to disengage with your blades. So many Genji players are bloodthirsty and will int-in with their blades even if the enemy team use ultimates like Sound Barrier, Blizzard, Rally, etc. Listen, if you're naked blading into beats, you're not killing shit. So instead of swinging like a monkey in open space, dash out, save your life, and save your ego. Onto the final section of the guide, positioning and playstyle. I've always hammered on the 4 fundamental rules for almost every hero at this point, but for Genji, there's a few differences this time in the example that I'll give on the Burning Seconds. First rule is to have cover or a corner. You don't want to get your dash or deflect forced early because you swung wide. Secondly, have line of sight onto the enemy team so you can see and scout what you might be diving, as well as having things to shoot in the meantime. The third rule is to have rotation options. Rotation options just mean different flanks or angles that you can take in order to stage a dive or to simply poke and farm your blades. And the last rule is to have escape routes. I've already talked about using your dash and deflect to escape, so say you dash to the high ground to dive in Ash Mercy. You could retreat off the high ground and to the mini, or you can retreat to the stairs and then down to the mini, or you could dash out and deflect all the way to the coast. If you're a bit ballsy, you could also retreat to the mini on the side of the third points.
This is where I think we get just a little too sloppy. So right here, you need to know where your escape route is. So you dash through, you right click, and then you...
It's not here.
It's not here, right? It's you just go a little too far, and so your disengage route is cut out. It's like you have to be so clean about in, out, in, out, in, out, min-maxing every single rotation that you take, every single engage that you take, because this is what kills you.
Now onto Genji's playstyle. Likewise to Echo, you as Genji are a poke dive hero. That means against comps you outrange, utilize your poke damage at the beginning of fights before you transition into your dive playstyle, where you utilize your very high burst damage to quickly assassinate a target and dip out. Say you're on Kingzil playing against some kind of brawly comp like an Orisa Casti Bap. You could flank all the way around the high ground, poking in the meantime, to then drop behind and quickly assassinate the Baptiste. In a different scenario, if you're playing up against a more pokey comp like a Widow, Ash, Mercy, that's where you have to go full assassin. Play shorter sideline angles with cover, looking to dash in from off angles and landing the kill on your target before escaping. So as a summary, play off angles to spam, and if you see an opportunity to dive and duel a vulnerable squishy, which you likely will, take it. Well, that's it for the guides. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and if this video helped to raise your IQ, be sure to share it with your friends to also raise theirs. Until next time.